All right, let's get started here. Can you guys hear me? Okay, welcome guys. How are you? Thanks for waiting so patiently. I had to suck down my lunch shake before we started here. Made sure everybody that was coming in here is in here today. Tired? Yeah, I think I'm kind of tired too. Good today, good. I'm dragging a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. But thank you guys for meeting me on this different day. I know this week has been a little different with my schedule, so I appreciate you guys, working with me and being flexible. We're gonna meet tomorrow as well at the same time. Oh, you couldn't sleep last night? I actually went to bed really late last night too. Sometimes that happens for sure. It's depending on what's going on, right? What's going on in your life. Did you guys have any questions with anything that you submitted from last week or that we went over from last week? No? Okay. Well, welcome. This is the final week. Can you guys believe it's the final week? I mean, how quickly did that go, right? Yeah. You had a question, Lily? Okay. What's up? As she's coming up with her question here, you guys are pretty much working on your final project, and hopefully the design brief that you guys worked on from last week is really going to help you go forward with your design concepts for this week. Okay, so for this week's assignment, are we supposed to discuss about the images we took like we have before? Okay, hold on one second. You're talking about for assignment 4 or the discussion? You're probably talking about assignment 4. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look. We'll read over this and I'll answer that question here. Yeah, I think that's part of the assignment for week 4. We were just going to go over that really quickly. Let's see here. Design specs. All right, so why don't we go ahead and we'll take a look at that real quick since you have a question about that. We'll kind of work backwards. I was going to go into your discussion, but we'll take a look at this here. All right, so you are asking about the assignment 4, which you guys will be composing your shots for your identity pieces here, are brand advertisements that you're going to be putting together for the chosen client that you chose. So let's go ahead and go down to the prompt here. It says this week you'll be setting up and shooting the advertising images from the design concept you did in week 3's assessment. After shooting your images, you will put together the advertisements specific to the client you chose. You may edit and enhance your images if needed using either Photoshop or Lightroom before utilizing it in your final design. So here's a reminder of the client projects below, so you can kind of read through which ones that you chose and their design specs, and their logos are also provided. It said you will need to decide on props and actors if needed and locations for your photo shoot. For instance, if you choose to work with the Client 1 soda company, you will need the soda product and possibly an actor. If you're working with Client 3, the movie poster, you will need a set, and you might need to set up a nighttime lighting technique. If, however, you choose to work with Client 2, the nursery, you will likely be shooting during the day outside, or at the nursery, you may not utilize an actor, but you might use a high angle shot, so the focal point is the plants. All right, so assignment instructions, you're going to save the final design layout as a PDF and combine it with the week 3 assessment and the original photo before adjustment into a multi-page PDF for submission. So really, you don't have to add anything in there in regards to a write-up and description. That was basically what you were focusing on in week 3. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, so you're basically kind of writing up your creative brief and your thoughts behind some of the concepts that you were thinking about in the assessment 3. So this week you're just putting it into action. Okay. So we just put the brief and the before pick along with final. Yes. Oh, okay. Very cool. There you go. Yeah, so what you'll be doing is you'll be combining, if you need to change anything in week 3, your design brief, you can do so, but add that into your pieces that you'll be submitting for this assignment for. So it'll be design brief, the photo that you did before you altered it, if you did, and then the final piece. Yep. And if you can combine it all in one PDF, that would be amazing. You know what I mean? Multi-page PDF. And that's kind of what is shown here for your submission instructions, so that I'm not kind of clicking on 5, 6 different pieces to look at it. So for the Facebook banner, what do you mean it's not the right size? You mean for the client 4 web banner? Okay. Yeah, just go with the design specs chosen there. It's a web banner ad. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then you don't, I guess in that case, you don't have to put it in like a mock-up template. Just show the actual web banner ad. If you want to, I mean, if you can find a template like that, that's fine. Yeah, it's 60 by 250 or 600 by 250. Guess it's a larger size, huh? Right. Let me see what size that is here. Yeah, so just combine your pieces together and submit it as a, I don't even think you need to compress it really. Let me see if that's in the instructions here. 250. Well, that's a pretty neutral size there, the 600 by 250. It's a larger banner size for sure. Yep. You don't have to compress your PDF, just submit the PDF. I think I just said something about zipping it, but don't worry about it. PDFs should be compressed anyway. You could do a low res PDF, like a small PDF. So if you're doing let me see if I'm sharing the right thing here. Hold on. There we go. All right, so if you're doing the client 1, the soda company, I kind of suggested this in announcements too, because I forgot to talk about this when we were in lecture. You are supposed to pick a brand from this website. Okay, yeah, no problem. And the brand that you choose, I kind of made mention to this in the announcements, that you probably should try to find that same brand if you're shooting that bottle or the can, whatever the product is, so that you're not showing a different brand and then having the logo being, completely opposite of that brand. So, yep. Shouldn't be too hard to find something, so just kind of keep that in mind. The Asana nursery, which I did for the demo, I kind of suggested in the lecture from last week. So if you watched it, you saw that I actually took the logo that was provided and I did my own kind of change to it by adding the name, because I think that just having this symbol is too vague. I don't believe that this is something that would be easily recognizable because it's a smaller brand. So that's kind of why I added the actual name of it with the mark. So that's something that you might want to do as well. That's for the nursery part. Not sure why the mark isn't, or the name isn't in with the mark, but that's what we're dealing with. The movie poster, if you're doing the movie poster, we talked about this as well. It doesn't have to be like a, you know, crazy logo. It could just be a word mark with just the name and a different typeface. Usually they're understated. You know, if you look at other movie posters, you kind of get the idea of the film title and movie producer and how that's placed in there. So the logo type would be more of a word mark. If you're doing the Humane Society and it's a web banner ad, you're going to have the logo that's provided, and just make sure that it works with the background that you're placing it on. So, and that could be your focal point could be the image that you're taking a picture of. So just be mindful of that. You know, you want enough contrast so that you're not losing the logo within the ad. So that's something that you'll need to kind of plan ahead as well. You need to plan the overall aspect of, you know, and this is kind of part of the week 3 assessment, is if you needed your models, or they call them actors on here, to help with your photo shoot, to be in it, you need to kind of prep for that as well. And I mean, this could be anybody that you're friends with, family members, friends of friends, whoever you can kind of suck in. I know that's like the fun part. People like to get their picture taken when it's for something like this, so you'd be surprised. If you are taking pictures of kids or animals, just be mindful of, you know, if you have something other than just a camera phone, you want your shutter speed to be set a little bit faster because of the movements that you might not have control over. Have your camera maybe sitting on, you know, a tripod to help with that as well. Yeah, animals don't cooperate, so it's kind of like kids for sure. And snap a ton of pictures, because, you know, I'd rather have you guys snap a whole bunch of pictures and then weed through the good and bad ones and get an actual good one. You might take 100 pictures, you might only have like 2 good ones if you're, you know, dealing with models or animals that you can't control. Yeah. Yeah, and, you know, play around with the timing of the day and the lighting. I would definitely tell you guys to not use a flash if you can help it. Flash is tough to deal with. I can tell. I know some of you guys use flash in your past projects, and I kind of called you out on it. If at all possible, you know, do not use flash. It just is it's one of those things that throws some things into the works, where it makes the photo look, you know, blown out in certain areas. So just kind of keep that in mind. And kind of all know the tips that we talked about earlier with when to photograph, the times of the day, where to have your subjects, you know, angled, where the lighting should be. All of that you need to be taking into consideration for this as well. Any questions about any of that? Okay. So they also have here, which is, I think is kind of cool, examples of, you know, using image compositing to create a new unique image for an advertisement. This is something that you can do too. You know, don't think that you're just stuck with the picture that you took. You can composite your images together for your advertisement or for your poster, whatever your web banner, your postcard, if that works. So, you have other options. It's not just using that photo singly. If you think that it calls for a composited image, then you can definitely do so. You can also alter, manipulate, Photoshop away if you feel the need, that if you think it's going to make it stronger. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. All right, very, very good. And like, I think somebody wants to share something at the end of the lecture, which is fine. We'll open it up for critique at the end. So if you have any questions and want to look at anything, we'll definitely keep that open. All right, so reminders and announcements for this week. We'll go over week 4 overview. We just kind of did that a little bit. Photo shoot, we'll talk about advertising, week 4 demo, critique. So boom, 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 right? We got them all lined up here. The critique, I'm just going to kind of pull up some student examples from this class for week 3 assessment and assignment. We'll take a look at some projects that I pulled up here. And then we'll get into your discussion here. All right, let's take a look here. I'm going to actually start with, let me see here. What am I going to start with? Your assignment 3. And I think the first one, Marla, I think yours is the first one here that I'm going to show. I like how you did this with the whole layout. I think this came together really well in terms of your grid structure. I think it's very easy to see. You have, everything nicely aligned. Everything's easy to view. And you have hierarchy within your layout here. I know where to look for second, third, which is great. So good job with that. And just to see kind of the different techniques and shots that you took here, different subject angles. Yeah. So you guys were to take different perspectives, eye view of the subject, looking up at the subject, looking down at the subject. Yeah, the framing part. I saw a lot of very interesting framing shots that you guys provided that, was really visually interesting. So kind of, remember that when you're, going out and taking pictures maybe for a project, that could be something that you could use for something that could definitely, create a whole new concept for, say an advertisement or something like that. Yes, but great job kind of showing those different angles and framing options here. The next one, Lily. And I like Lily's backstory here on all of these pictures because it really kind of gets you into, her life, which I think this is one of the nice things about teaching this class. I get to peek into your world sometimes. So, so we got to hear the story about poor Stormy here and, all the other animals, but very, very cool. The framing shot down here that I think is very strong is the fencing shot. Little goat butt. I think it's kind of a neat angle where it's the depth of field being, you have that fence being a little blurred out there, but the focus is on what's in that. Yeah. A little puppy dog there kind of being framed by the hands. Just a butt shot. You guys do, what is it called? Goat yoga? I guess that's a big thing nowadays, right? Goat yoga. It kind of reminded me of that. Oh, it's the new thing. Yeah, I guess they have like yoga class and they have goats kind of come into the class and jump on people's backs while they're doing yoga. And apparently if they poop on you, it's good luck. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But great job with getting different angles, especially with animals. It's a tough shots to get, especially with the close-up here of the horse. This would have been really cool if maybe the eyes were a little open, if you could have caught the horse's eyes a little open, a little bit more sharper here. I know it moves. I guess her name is Angel, very pretty horse. Oh, We had a goat that would steal your cigarettes and then butt you if you didn't have any. That's funny. That's awesome. That is. They definitely have that personality, huh? Great job too, Lily, with setting up your grid structure for your overall composition. This is kind of almost like an editorial design, which I think works really well. It's easy to see. It's very aligned. So you're paying attention to those details as well. So good job. Here's another one Ashley did. I thought this was pretty good as far as the angles are concerned, and the framing was kind of interesting too. But this is the her setting up this shot here of different angles. So you have the one that is kind of looking from above, and then the other one is kind of looking at the same eye level of the subject matter. And again, overall layout looks really good. This last one I think is pretty cool. Using an actual kind of a sculptured frame. Looks like a sculpture, but I think it's a frame on a piece of wood. Yeah, very aesthetically pleasing. What would have really made this a little bit stronger is if she could have angled herself where the lights, you can see kind of the, I don't know if it's a sunset or a sunrise. Looks like maybe a sunset. Sun was setting, she said, would be maybe more in the middle of this square. So all she needed to do is maybe move more to the right and position the camera like a little lower or higher, depending on kind of how to get that bright spot in the middle. Would have been kind of interesting. But overall, I think it's very cool. I think it's a neat way to view things, especially how the light's hitting that frame. I think that's really, really interesting. So good job. All right, the next thing, and I think this is going into, and this is Marla's assessment 3. You guys did a great job. I saw some really good creative briefs, maybe not just, some of you guys did just use my template, but a lot of you guys did kind of make it your own as well, custom to your brand. So Marla did a great job here with a cover and a intro. I don't know if I can zoom in just a little. Let's see here, less than this. You changed our creative brief from last week. Oh, well, you know, that's sometimes what designers do. We keep evolving our work, so that's okay. As long as you're improving it upon it, you know, change is good. Let's get growing. I like that tagline. Very cool. So, Marla, did you feel like this really helped you with kind of coming up with more creative concepts? Okay, good. And this is what you guys should always be doing for every project that you start, not just for school, but for, you know, real life projects. Designers have a process. It's a design process. Creative brief is part of that. And not everybody's process is the same, but, you know, generally you do kind of the same steps or similar steps. And do you know what the whole reason behind having a process, a design process? Why would we want to do that instead of like skipping it if we skipped it and just started designing? Like if we got a project and we just started designing right away on the computer, what do you think the benefits of that process would be? Keep you on track, makes it faster for every project. It may not make it faster for every project. You may take a little bit more time with the process, but I think the more that you do it, the faster you will be at it. The process can take you a little longer, but keeps you in touch with the employer. So it keeps you on the same page, right? Well, the design brief does, yep. The design brief is part of the process. So your process isn't just the design brief. That's just the beginning. So the design process is, for instance, you gathering this information, doing research, and then doing the design brief, and then getting feedback. So the design brief is a part of that, yeah. Yeah, so to answer that, you guys are doing good guessing that. And I think you guys are answering more of what the design brief is good for, which is great. But the design process, if you were to skip that, and go straight to designing, yeah, you wouldn't be on the same page. You might not be on the same page. You could probably design something very aesthetically pleasing, but it probably won't work because you didn't put the research behind it to make it a more meaningful design and concept. So when you go through your design processes, it allows you to come up with more meaningful, different, unique solutions to your concepts. Because as designers and even photographers, people think you're always creative, right? They're always thinking, oh, you'll have all these ideas right away. But that's just not the case. We're human. We have a design block, right? Yep, exactly. I mean, we don't, especially if we don't know the brand or the client. So we have to go through these processes in order to get ourselves, not only ourselves on the same page as the project and the client and the target audience, but also to, find out what's the most meaningful, effective solution. So when you go through your processes, you come up with as many different concepts as you possibly can. So it's allowing you to dig into the depths of totally different ideas, and some of those processes could be a crazy idea, and that's exactly what it is. So you write down all what you think are crazy ideas. It could be the adjective list as part of your process. It could be just going out for a break and taking a walk down the street and back. That could be part of your process. So, all of that stuff is helpful with coming up with more creative solutions. Yeah, so the budget part is, and I forgot to tell you guys because I actually, some of that copy was bumped down when I was doing the demo, so I didn't quite get to that. So the deadline would be, and the location would be obviously where you're going to have it. Deadline would be when this project is due, and the budget you can definitely just research what you believe would be a good guesstimate for this. And I think that's a good thing, maybe kind of researching and understanding how much it would be to create something like this. But there's a lot of missing information, which kind of makes it a little harder for you guys, like the quantity and the paper, if it's being printed, stuff like that isn't really being specified here. So, just give it a good estimate. It says, since mine was trying to get people to donate, okay. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing, that's another thing. Who you chose as a client will really dictate too how much budget that you may have. And it's not saying that, what is it? The organizations like, I'm sorry, the Humane Society may not have as much of a budget. I mean, it's obviously that they probably don't, but they do get some incentives with, government, I guess, grants and all that stuff. And so they might have a bigger budget. It is percentage for cost, but not everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, some of the bigger organizations out there definitely have bigger budgets too, but that's definitely something you have to think about. But anyway, Marla did a great job. This is a very cool way of doing your mood board too. She has the colors kind of montaged with images, inspirational images, the logos being shown there, taglines, and even playing around with different typefaces. So great job with kind of mixing and montaging, all of your ideas. I think this is a great way to get started and kind of get inspired by things that you see and, placing your ideas in there just so that, not only you get, be inspired going forward, but it helps me see kind of where your vision's going as well. Rough sketches, I think you did a great job with showing this as well. Just different ideas that I think are cool. So it's not just one concept, you're kind of showing a few here, it looks like. So you have the before and after thing going on. And this is the postcard, so it'd be like the front and the back. If you were to show this again, Marla, if you wanted to kind of brighten up your sketches a little bit, you can have that and place that in Photoshop and adjust your levels so you can brighten it up a little bit so it's easier to see. Just kind of a little tip there, but great job for the most part. Lily, you said you changed yours at the last, or you just changed yours, so let's take a look here. It's kind of neat to see how each of you approach this. So cover, and here's the creative brief, adding in the logo, creative concept, different inspirational colors, concepts, photos, and then sketches. So, you know, research what's out there already too, you guys. So go out and research who your competitors would be. It doesn't have to necessarily be in the same town, but just look up what other people have out there so that you can align your brand appropriately. You don't want to copy what they have, but you want to make sure yours are, you know, yours is aligning with, you know, what works, but you're also making it differentiated between, you know, the brands out there. Those are all your animals. Zoom in here. This is like the perfect project for you. You got all kinds of models. Whether they'll cooperate is another story, right? I like this whole cradle and the arms. I think this would definitely be a very cool idea because it's showing like that softer side. The hands kind of cradling it would be definitely a pull the heartstrings type of a picture here. And even having the child holding the rabbit too. Yep. Think about, you know, different headlines that would go with your visuals. You want the headlines to, you know, unify with your focal images or focal points. So that might be something you'll kind of maybe investigate too. My end is very much different than all this. Oh, okay, so you changed it significantly then. Okay. Well, that's okay. You can keep, you know, evolving your brief. That's fine. Okay. Sometimes that happens where you keep changing things, adding and changing stuff. Okay. Yeah, so for for you, I would definitely look up Humane Society ads for, excuse me, Marla. I would look up nursery or even gardening type of brands, come up with some ideas there. This is Charities. She kind of went with a very simple approach here with her creative brief, but I think, you know, the colors that she chose here, everything is good, especially with her sketches are easy to see here. She's playing around with different grid structures and ideas there. And then last but not least, this is mine. I just wanted to kind of show you where we ended the last time that we met. So, you know, going forward here into the demo, I can kind of go from the creative brief to the actual postcard. Yeah, the colors are really nice. So basically, you guys should be kind of going forward with your concepts. You should be inspired by what you forgot the adjectives. Yeah, I definitely would do the adjective list. If you didn't get that in there, you know, I would definitely use that. I think that will help you if you are able to tie that in with your typeface, your typeface choice, your overall look and feel of the piece, the mood, how you take your pictures, your photos. the colors that you use. So you should be in a good spot where you're ready to kind of play around with your, you're ready to start your photo shoot. Did you guys start your photo shoots yet? You did start yesterday? Okay. Very, very cool. Get that done as soon as possible. That way you have enough time to kind of manipulate the images if you need to. If you need to retake them, you can. You'll have some time instead of waiting till the last minute, and then if you didn't quite get the shots that you needed, or if it didn't come out as well, you're kind of stuck if you're doing it at the last minute. Okay, so you guys are almost done. Good. All right, very cool. So I'm just kind of switch gears here because we kind of started in a different way. Now I wanted to kind of go over some of the details since there were questions here, but let's go ahead and take a look at Canvas real quick. And I wanted to just go over some of the objectives as well as your discussion before we go forward. See if you guys have any questions. Oh, and I don't know if you checked out announcements. I just posted something in announcements yesterday. And this has to do with your discussions that you're going through. Yep. Very simple little infographic here. So if you missed it, check this out. Talks about the flat fee, rights managed, Creative Commons, and royalty free, the differences between them. So flat fee, single photo that is licensed and intended for one user. And they all have restrictions. The rights managed type photos are refers to the purchase of a photo which can only be used one time and as specified for the license. Creative Commons, public copyright license that allow the free distribution of work but specify under what conditions. And royalty free, the right to use any image without having to pay royalties or license fees for additional uses of the image. So I think rights managed is a little bit more expensive than royalty free. I know from my past experience it has been. Flat fee is, I think, a little bit more like, when you take photographs of a family or something like that, you had that flat fee license going on there. And then Creative Commons, there's all kinds of different sites out there that have public copyright licenses where you can, like pixabay.com has that. I think Google has it as well. Okay, you did the flat fee when you get married. How do you protect your pictures? Well, you can either watermark them, just putting your name on the actual picture. If you have your pictures online, say your work that's being posted online in a portfolio, obviously it's going to be low res unless you upload it to be a high res image. So I would just keep it at low res because people won't be able to really use it, maybe unless they use it in a website situation. But anybody can take it. It's not like, unless you have a locked website where they can't actually take it. I'm sure that there's encryptions that you can do, but I'm not really, I'm not sure of that as far as how that goes technically, but that's pretty much how you would protect it. People who use your image without your consent and you find that image being used, obviously you can contact them. They could actually get in big trouble, but, lawyers could be involved, excuse me, as far as that goes. But if you're actually placing pictures, say for work purposes, portfolio purposes, it depends on how you want to do it. You could put a watermark on it where it's just faded out a little bit. Yep. A trademark name. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, and that's different. You're talking about like an actual name for a company or using, you know, an actual, yeah. Yeah, there's actually like a trademark. It's called like a trademark. Geez, I can't even remember what the website is, but you can go on and actually look to see if the name that you're thinking about is already trademarked, commission. Yep. And that's one of the things that you need to be aware of. You can't just come up with a name and start designing it for somebody. You need to make sure that that name's not being used, or else you can get in big trouble. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, you kind of you don't want to learn the hard way there for sure. All right, let's go to week 4 here. So basically, some of the things that you're going to be, actually all the things that you're going to be walking away from this week is you're going to kind of understand the differences between stock photography and rights managed. So we're going to be discussing that. So research and define technical composition and legal requirements related to use of stock photography and design. You're going to edit and enhance photographs using imaging software. Define and apply various composition and lighting techniques to create a digital photographic image. Research and define a minimum of 5 photographic category subjects. Define and discuss 4 principles of advanced digital photography techniques. Discuss how to art direct a photo shoot by identifying the goals and requirements of the shoot. I think a lot of this too goes from week 3 within your design brief, because we kind of talked about those same things last week as well. This week, we will discuss the different types of stock photography and shoot the photo for your advertising design. Check this great video clip out with a National Geographic photographer talking about vulnerability in art. Hey, did you guys check out that new, and you probably have, the National Geographic cover of their magazine? Let me see. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Oops. Oh, I just saw it. Hold on. I thought this was really cool. So this is kind of interesting, and I caught this yesterday through a feed, and I wanted to share this with you guys. I thought this was kind of cool. But if you looked at this cover here, I'm going to kind of crop it. Oh, National Geographic almost looks like a glacier sticking out, right? But it's a paper plastic bag. Kind of a cool, interesting perspective. So I think this is a great way to get people to start thinking. Yeah. It looks like a glacier coming out of that water, but then a closer look at it, it's a plastic bag. Yeah, it's so sad. So anyway, I wanted to show you that. That's kind of a neat perspective on how that photo is shot too. It looks like a plastic bag. Yeah, it's a plastic bag. Craziness. Yeah, it's so sad. But anyway, thought that I would share that if you didn't catch that. Really cool, very thought-provoking cover. All right, let's take a look at your discussion here. Do you guys want to take a 5-minute break before we do so, or are you guys okay? Okay. Let me go back here. We actually don't have too much to go over today. I'm going to go over a little demo, but after discussion, I'll do the demo, and then we'll see if you guys want to share anything that you have going on there. All right. Well, let's take a quick 5-minute, and then we'll come back. I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, can you guys hear me? Back. All right, so let's see here. We just went over your, oh, we were going to go through the discussion here. That's where we were. Woo, changing of the years. Here we go. Okay, so discussions again. Oh, I hit the wrong one. This one is due, the initial post is due, don't forget, by midnight tonight. The initial post. And don't forget to, you guys have an integration, the career integration quiz, which is not as many points as 15 points, but it all adds up. So make sure you're taking care of that. And that's just, the integration quiz is basically a reflection of this class. Awesome. Yeah, some of you guys are way ahead, which is great. Sometimes it's nice to get that out of the way to focus on the bigger things. All right. So for discussions, we're going to be talking about the differences between royalty-free and rights managed. So go ahead and read the background information. So you have a client that wants you to create an annual report for them. The client has given you the designer, several photos they want to use. Some of the images they have just copied off of their other sites and pulled off Google, and some are from legitimate stock photography sources. Discuss how you would describe to your client royalty-free images and other image options that would work better for their projects. Also, discuss how you would explain to the client why it is not only illegal, but unethical to use the non-stock photography images in their design projects. For your citation, you might use articles that explain usage rights of stock photography. You can also find articles from experts that discuss copyright and plagiarism in design. And don't forget, just kind of challenge each other, give each other a new perspective to think about if you find that, appropriate within their post and your response to their post. So, think about if you were in this situation where you had a client that, they had given you images they wanted you to use, but they were just pulled off from other sites and they weren't really theirs. And it's just like Google Images, and it wasn't, wasn't free to use. And what's good about talking about this is this happens a lot. You would be kind of surprised because clients don't know. They just go online, they do a Google search, image search, and sometimes designers do that, unfortunately, because you don't know what you don't know, and that's why you're going to school. So that's kind of giving you the tools to understand, the right way to do it, and also to educate your clients in a respectful way. You don't have to make them feel like they're stupid, obviously, but explain to them, what issues could arise and how they, it's, not proper to use those types of images. It's good to, talk about this as well, because if you're in this situation, you have that experience of knowing what to say and what to do. But, knowing the differences between all the different types of sources out there is also important, and why you would use which source. So that's why I posted that announcement as well, just kind of get you guys started with the understanding of different licenses and what's out there and what would be appropriate for your, particular project and client. Any questions about that? Yep, exactly. Gives you something to think about that you would not think about. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I don't even remember going through and talking about when I was in my undergrad many, many years ago. So whenever I was presented with my projects early in my career, it was something that was learned that, luckily I got a job immediately in an advertising agency that was smaller, and I was able to go under the wing of many other designers to kind of show me the way. but it's always good to have that information accessible beforehand, so you kind of know how to approach the problem and have a solution for it as well. Very cool. So you could talk about the differences between stock photography and the different licenses, and kind of bring that up within your supportive resources, your supportive copy. All right. I know there was, I've actually had the experience of purchasing both royalty-free and rights managed for different clients that I worked with. So it's all really kind of customized based on the project and your client as well, because certain licenses are a little bit more expensive too. So if they don't have quite as big of a budget, you might want to go with, the cheaper option, obviously. I believe the rights managed, they are more expensive. They're a little bit more expensive because they're a little bit more, I guess, would you say like more unique? People normally would go towards maybe the more royalty-free as far as like an advertising agency because they're cheaper. So you might see more royalty-free images within a brand identity system or advertisement. So that would take the uniqueness factor out of, might kind of make your advertisement less unique if that same photo is being used in other brands. Yeah, but use it more. Yep. Might be expensive, but if you use it more, it's worth it. Plus, if it's unique enough where others aren't using it over and over again in other brands and advertisements, it could be worth it as well. So that is the discussion. If you have any questions, let me know, but I think that's pretty straightforward. Don't forget your career integration quiz too, like I just talked about. Make sure you're answering these very thoroughly. So when you go to preview here, you can preview the questions and make it specific to this course. Don't be very vague with your answers. Oh, cool. Marla, you're ahead of everybody. That's good. The assessment 4 is a quiz. And it's worth 35 points. The learning objectives covered are as such here. So research and define a minimum of 5 photographic category subjects. Define and discuss 4 principles of advanced digital photography techniques. Edit and enhance photographs using imaging software. Define and apply various composition and lighting techniques to create a digital photographic image. These are all pretty much what we went over in the start of the week. So this quiz is a culminating quiz. Questions have been taken from the required week 1 through 4 in your course media readings and videos. So make sure you have gone through all the course materials before attempting this quiz. Be careful to read the question to help discourage cheating. Some of the questions will seem just like others, but the values have changed or what is asked for has changed. Be sure you know what the question is asking for and the values to use. There are 11 questions on the quiz and it is not timed. Please take your time and refer back to the reading of videos as necessary to answer the questions. That's nice. And then you can kind of go forward. So it's up to you if you want to attempt that first before you get all of your stuff done or leave it last, but definitely do not forget to take that quiz. I mean, obviously 35 points is a lot of points to just totally not get. So definitely take that. All right, so we went over the discussion. We went over your learning objectives. You went over your assignment 4. We went over the quiz just quickly here, career integration. The next thing I wanted to do is just start that demo. And the demo would be based off of kind of what I started from week 3, kind of give you a good start of, good look into how I would approach this project. Let's bring this back up here. And I started with the clients, and yours might be different, but I started with the client 2. So I would just go in here and just make sure I'm reading all this information, getting the right specs, make sure that I'm using the correct logo. And like I said, since I'm doing the nursery one, I'm going to add the name with that actual logo mark. So it's 5 by 7, that's in inches, postcard both sides. It doesn't necessarily say where you should design this. So, you know, I always like to say you can combine your software, combine your, your software for different projects. So let's say if you wanted to design your headline with a banner, you could do so in Illustrator and bring it into InDesign to lay it out. If you want to do it all in InDesign, that's fine too. I wouldn't design this in Photoshop because it's, Photoshop is great for just manipulation of photos, but for actual typeface layout, you really want to get in the habit of using InDesign for that, because that's kind of what it's used for. So I would definitely go with InDesign for this project. So I'm going to pull up InDesign right now here. And like I said, I already have the logo. This is the, oh, of course. Sorry, guys. Hold on one second. I already have the logo here in Illustrator. I saved it out as a ping file so that it's transparent in the background. And all I need to do is import it into InDesign. So let me go into InDesign. I'm going to open up my, or create a new document. So I go File, New. This is where I got to this point here. I'm in InDesign. And I'm going to make sure this is in inches. And I'm going to do width is 7 inches and then 5 inches for the height. And I want 2 pages because it's going to be front and back. Make sure facing pages is not checked. You don't need that checked because we're not really doing a magazine cover or anything like that. Start with 1 page, columns. Completely up to you. As far as the columns go, if you want to set your columns now, if you want to leave it, that's fine. I'm just going to leave it. Margins, at least a half is good. And then your bleeds you can also set as well. I'm going to do maybe an 1/8 all around here. Maybe a 1/4. Well, let's go back. That's typically what it is. If you were talking to your printer and this was an actual printed piece, they would have the specs of bleeds that they would need for your particular final file here. Okay, so here is, if you're doing a postcard, this is what your layout would look like. Bring out my pages here. Pages is great. We can kind of get that over here. Take a look at our pages. We can navigate. So this is kind of where your design brief and your sketches come into play. Let me save this real quick here. Assignment 4. Because you can start playing around with the grid structure that you had. And let me open up my my PDF here so you can see the ideas that I had going on. Doesn't mean that you necessarily have to go with one of them specifically. You can kind of mishmash some things together because your ideas and your thoughts and concepts may have changed since then too. So you might even want to do more sketches before attempting your actual layout. So here are the 3 that I was thinking about. So what I would do is definitely take the photos first. And for this particular client, I show 2 different, actually 3 different concepts. So I have one with just maybe a general focal point of just the flowers. The second one would be, using half of a model. And then the third one would be a close-up of the model's hands, kind of planting plants and flowers with some of the flowers kind of in the background. So I kind of have to decide which one do I want to go forward with. And I can actually design all 3 and then choose from there. So don't think that you just have to go with one and if you're kind of undecided, it's always good to do a couple and then kind of weed it from there. And that means going into InDesign and designing both, and then kind of weeding out what you don't like, you know, pulling in different images for your concepts as well. All right, so I actually didn't take my own photos for this. I just weeding, exactly, there you go, no pun intended, right? So I'm going to make my focal point, and you don't have to do the whole entire composition one big photograph. You can, you know, do it in different ways, but I'm going to do the whole thing. So I'm going to bleed it out. So I'm going to take the rectangle frame tool, and I'm going to bleed this out to all 4 sides. I'm going to do Command D, and I'm going to just say, for sake of this particular demo, pretend like I went out and actually took pictures, right? And but these are actual pictures I found on Pixabay, so these are all copyright-free, high-res images. Let's see, here's a kid one. Where did I place these? Oh, this is the one that I was thinking about. And these actually might be low res because I just kind of quickly downloaded them. But for the purpose of this demo, it's good to place something in here very quickly. So this is one of the shots. So say if I took this shot, you know, you might want to take, like I said, 50 or more shots of this same shot so you get the one that is the best one possible. If it needs to be pulled into Photoshop Lightroom to adjust maybe the exposure, the lighting, you're doing so. If you need to composite anything together, you can do that as well. So this is kind of where I'm going to start right now, and then I'm going to add in my headline. And I think some of the headlines I was thinking about was Spring is Sprung, or Spring Flower Special, Spring Flower Special, something very, you know, simple like that. You can come up with something very witty, go back to your creative brief, you know, start thinking about ideas. Give me some ideas for this one, you guys. What would be a good headline for this visual here? It's very simple, quick. I'm going to change my margins. Spring is here. Spring fling. Getting dirty. Oh, it's a flower sale. So, go back to my client ideas. Homeowners. There's spring plant specials. I'm going to take the type tool. Brings home spring. How about spring is sprung? Spring in for. Okay, no problem. I like bring home spring. That's good. Bring home spring. You guys are coming up with some good ones here. I'm just going to go with this one for now. Thank you, guys. See, it's nice to kind of bounce ideas off each other. So if you have, you know, obviously people at home or friends, you can kind of bounce taglines and headlines, I should say. I guess coordinate something together where you can kind of come up with some ideas. That's always a good way to do it. Brainstorming, I should say. Oh, is it me? Sorry, guys. Might be me. Is that better? It was me. I'm sorry, guys. That was totally me. I guess I forgot to share my screen here. I'm glad you said something. I've done that when nobody's in here, and I'd have to re-record because I didn't share my screen appropriately. I didn't have it sharing what I was showing. It's just one of the things that doesn't happen often, but it did happen the one time, and I was like, oh no, so I had to re-record. Yeah, exactly. That was fine. It was actually like 10 minutes, so I was able to just re-record it. Okay, so I'm going to kind of choose, this is kind of where I'm going to go back and look at my, let's go back here, and look at my, I'm going to share my screen again, my creative brief, and look at my adjectives. Bright, cheerful, fresh, springy, happy, joy, light, bold, fun, refreshing. You know, that's where I get the inspiration of, okay, what those adjectives are describing the personality of what typeface. So that's kind of where that comes into play. Not only colors, but also, you guys see my, let me make sure I'm sharing this correctly here. Also the typeface being used as well. Chat, there we go. Play around with the, you know, what you're gonna place in there, how you're gonna say it, where the logo is gonna be. You might want to kind of play around with those different elements. But once you get that photo in there, you know, everything else will, oops, let me redo, come into play. We do a couple things here, drop shadow. So play around with it. Let me put this on the, a little hard to see. If you need to, you can go into Photoshop. Say, I want this, let me show you here. I want this headline to be below here, but it's still kind of hard to read. I can go ahead and open up, let me show you in Photoshop, take that original photo, open it up in Photoshop, and you can actually do that another, I'll show you another way to do this too without going into Photoshop. A couple little techniques here. So you're having problems with contrast. Unlock your layer. And you could throw on a gradient. Let me put a mask on here first. Oops. And I'm going to throw a darker background. So I'm going to fill this with black on the layer below this. So then I'm going to put a mask on it like you saw, and I'm going to take the gradient tool and just kind of do a gradient on it. Now I can dial down the opacity if it's too light. Whoops, not for that. Let me go back here. Since we're doing a, there, that's probably better. Since we're doing a mask, it won't let me do that. But let me save this. Let me go back into InDesign. And then I just go to my links. And, oops, not that one. Relink. Relink it. I think I could have done that differently here. Hold on. Oh, I didn't save it out. I saved it as PSD. Okay. I have to save that out as a TIFF file, but I'm just going to easily do it here. I should have exported that out as a TIFF file, but I didn't. But anyway, you can kind of see, let me do the preview. You can see how different it looks now that I made it a little darker. It's easier to read. Now there's another way you can do this without actually going into Photoshop. You can actually, in InDesign, take just, say, a rectangle tool and just draw a very kind of general rectangle here. Yes. And fill this with black, obviously, or whatever color you want. And, you know, I would definitely at this point bring forward the actual text, but have the rectangle selected, and then go over to your gradient feather tool. Oops. You can go ahead and drag from the bottom up to get that nice feather effect. And I would stop right before that bounding box so that you have a nice, there's no clear or no line being shown there. And what's nice about this technique is you can actually dial the opacity down by selecting that square again, going up to tint and bringing that down just slightly. If you don't want that to be so harsh there. Okay. You can, obviously put in just maybe a couple lines of text if you feel like that's appropriate. For the postcard, you can keep it as simple as this with the logo, and then on the back side have the copy there. Just kind of some suggestions there. I'm going to actually place the logo in here right now. See if we have any issues with that. So I'm going to do a little rectangle frame tool. I'm going to go ahead and grab the ping file that I saved out as an Illustrator. So that comes in transparently. So you can see right away that I have an issue with the photo and how this is going to read. So that's when you kind of play around with wherever all your elements are going to be. Actually, I should have bled this out a little bit. Or you can also alter the logo if you have that ability to. If you need that type to be white, you can go back into Illustrator and make this white. You just have to save it out as, like a white version. So I would save it as a white AI file first, once I change that. Save that. And then I would go export, save as a ping file. I would make sure it's high resolution for that, transparent in the background, click OK. All right, then I would go back to Illustrator. It's always back and forth, back and forth. And I would go ahead and place that white logo variation ping file. The logo doesn't have to be huge. As long as it's readable, I would say keep it larger, keep it at least 1.5, if not 2 inches. I think this is, let's get the info here. It's about 1.13 by 1.2, so it's close. We're dealing with a postcard, so you're going to be viewing this very closely to your face when you're reading it. You could even bring all of this down. So this is kind of where you're just playing around with the composition and how everything kind of works together. I'm going to align left, make this a little bit bigger. Centering it with that. Setting it on the same baseline, maybe. You can even, like I could throw a small drop shadow on this as well, just to make it easier to see as well on the logo, if that seems like an issue too. See how it kind of brings out that O part, or I guess the O part. This looks a little too far down, so I'm going to bring this up just a little bit. And I would either center this with the logo, or I would align it with the same baseline. I'm going to take a look and see what this looks like. Not too bad. The other option would be, you know, centering it up here. Although at that point, I think we need this in black, making it bigger. Or some color that would make this pop a little bit more. And then maybe centering this since that's centered. So I'm just going to center this box and then go up to Object, Fitting, Center Content. I still like the white. So you could also do something like this, where you can actually put like a thin border here. Let's say of a color within here. So I'm going to take my eyedropper tool and I'm just going to grab maybe one of the colors that are in here. Maybe this red color. Oops. Not let me do it. And then I'm going to bring the headline forward. Oops. Hold on, I know somebody typed in the chat here. Give me 1 second. And then maybe make this white because I don't want it to be too heavy, but kind of play around with it. Or that green. I guess I can do it green, huh? The logo green. The red flower is distracting. Maybe if I did it something like this, because I have to think about how this balances out. So I want to be able to see the gloves. Maybe covering up that red tulip. You like that color? You like that? Or do you think it should be the color of the logo? Let's see. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we could do something like this where, listen a little bit, it just becomes like a really thin band, and we can make it have a little bit of an opacity so it's not as bold, but you have some contrast there so it's readable. So there's different ways you can do this. You know, play around with it, make sure it's readable, like the bold. At this point, maybe we could even bring this down a little bit because I think this is a little dark down here. You guys are good. Give me some suggestions. I think the logo is still a little bit hard to see down here. Let me take away this altogether and see. No, it's even worse. Pull this up a little bit. I just don't want to not be able to see the gloves. Something like that. Can move up the image just slightly. Okay. Over to the gloves. Yeah, if I center this though, if I move it over here, it kind of becomes unbalanced. You know what I mean? Like if I pull this over to the right, I would almost need something over here to balance everything else. Now I can stack this. Different options here. Where I'm making maybe spring bigger. And I can have different points, you know, different typefaces. So You know, bring home could be, you know, instead of a script type font, it could be just Avenir or something like that. Let's do it condensed. Let's do narrow and then smaller. You like the script and too boring. Well, I was having a combination of the two. I was just seeing what this looks like. You know, it may or may not work, but it's just some things that I was thinking about. So then, you know, it kind of balances out a little bit better, but, you know, obviously this would need to change. But anyway, thinking about how you would align that and use different hierarchy of type, you know, kind of play around with it, make sure it works for your composition. See, you guys you're ready to critique me, right? We could do this all day. I mean, you could add really cool elements to this too. You know, there's just so many things that you can do. You can add a border. I mean, don't go crazy. Obviously, you want to keep it simple too, but I'm trying to think of different things to tell you guys to play around with. You do like really cute little dots. Kind of cute for something like this. This is the nursery paw prints. There you go. Bring this maybe inward a little bit. I'm gonna lose my typeface here. Your dog nose looks like a heart. That would be very cool to do. That's a neat thing to do for sure. Oh, excuse me. All right, so for, cool, I can see it. For the back side, I'm just gonna copy and paste this in here. Excuse me. Like I said, if you're doing the postcard, you can put a lot of the copy in the back. The reason why I copied and pasted this on the back, because I want to keep some of the details here. I can move everything kind of off here by this point, but if I wanted to repeat this border, for instance, I could keep that in there. If I wanted to just take that out and focus on, or even I can even use the same picture and just like zoom in on it even more. I mean, it's already really, really big here, so you can use another photograph too if you want. Let me go back and use maybe another photograph that I have in here. You know, maybe just blowing this up, and I can't see all my presets up here. That's why I'm getting annoyed by this chat thing here. Let me move this over. Here we go. I like that one too. Very cool. So if I were to zoom in or something like that on this one, and this would be my postcard back in the back, I could do something like this where, and it, you know, some postcards you don't have to have, you can have the address, but you don't necessarily have to have a place to write your stuff in there. So, you know, as far as like a white side on the one side, you can keep it printed full color and just have an area where the address would go to and a return address. So, and I don't even think you could have where the address goes to. If it's sent out to a list of people, I guess it would. I guess it would. So the stamp and the postcard, that's the thing with postcards. Dealing with the mail, the post office can be kind of a nightmare with postcards. They definitely have rules and regulations of where the stamps would be. If you have this as an open postcard. So you might want to go on to their website and check it out. They, some of them definitely give you specs on how large of an area to keep free of any information or graphics and type. So if you want to kind of make it to that spec, you can definitely do that and just kind of make sure maybe 1/3 of it is free of that. So it'd be almost like something like this. And I'd have to look up the specs because I don't have that in my head right now. Usually that's something that you go and look for and figure that out. No, you don't actually have to show the stamp. The only thing that you could probably do is look at a little indicia, and that is kind of like a little where the stamp would be. And that's completely up to you if you want to do that. The indicia can be just as simple as a thin black outline. So it'd be like this. Oops. But you don't have to like go crazy and make it look. It's up to you. If you want to put like the address in there and everything, you can. You just have to make that up, obviously. Is it the same nationwide as far as the post office goes? Yes. Yeah, like if you, let me see if I can bring this up here real quick. I know you're looking, I'm gonna Google here real quick the post office, because you can actually just go on their website and get those specs. And then like the size and the specs and all that. Just give me 1 second here. Oh, and they have a template too, actually. Let's see if I can open that up. So this is just like free on their website. Here's their template. It's a PDF that I just downloaded. So this is for jumbo postcard. So I just quickly just downloaded this just to show you guys what this would be. So this is the specifications for a jumbo postcard. So the length and the height, depending on which size specified here. But you can see the standard one is on the right lower hand corner. It's the light green. And it's kind of giving you the clear area where the address and the barcode area would be. The jumbo would be the darker green. So it's like about 3.5 inches wide and then 4 3/4 for the barcode area. So if you want to be really specific and go with that information, you definitely can do that. But, it's up to you guys. 3.5 is about right there. Oops, sorry guys, I keep hitting the wrong button. I'm like driving myself crazy here, trying to see the chat area. He flew by the seat of your pants. All right, so you can kind of, obviously you can have the logo here. Let me center it within this area. You can have the body copy here. Maybe this would be more of like spring flower sale. And it's more of like a subhead. And you can pull that same element, say if you wanted to bring this bar in there. I don't know if that's actually working, but you could bring that, you know, down here and pay off of that too. Tie it all together, right? If it's easier to see body copy that way, you can bring this all the way down. And like I said, you can give it like an opacity so you can still see the flowers through it. Consistent look, yep. You got it. I'm not sure if that's actually working, but go back to the other. All right, and then, you know, if you want to just kind of make up, you know, quick little body copy explaining, you know, what the sale's all about, you can definitely put that in there. You can get that copy information anywhere. You could just make it up. I'm just going to put typically postcards are between 10 and 12 point height as far as the body copy. So you don't want to go any bigger than that. Okay, I'm actually just going to do just a very quick little placeholder text in here so you guys can get the idea. This is a little hard to see, so to figure that out, and I think I spelled this wrong. Copy is a little hard to see, so just make sure that that is fixed. I'm going to go with 10 by 14 point leading. That's just placeholder text for purposes of showing you guys. Maybe what I would do in this instance is bring in maybe a white background square. See how that looks. Kind of experimenting with different things here. The problem is I'm using that background photograph, which you don't have to. You could just keep it white too. You don't have to use a photograph necessarily. Well, let's say you want to use that photograph, but you need a little bit more contrast. You could do something like that, as long as it works. Let me bring this forward. You know, and at this point, I probably would just bring this down. Bring this over at top. I mean, I guess I could just make the whole thing a different opacity too, but I'm just experimenting here. See what this looks like here. 1 second. And I can go back to my black and white variation, or not my black and white, the this variation here where the copy is black instead. If that works, kind of play around with it. Take the drop shadow off. Might work better without the drop shadow. So these are all the things that you'll be kind of playing around with and seeing what works for your particular situation. But just make sure if you're putting body copy on there, any headlines and even the logo, that it's readable on there. It's not, you know, it's not being hidden. It's hard to read. Any questions about that? I can actually make this green too. It doesn't have to necessarily, if that's too harsh of a color, I can go with a green. I just need to sample that green, say like this green in here. I can actually select it. Let me copy and paste it so I can actually grab the green in here. Here we go. I can add my swatches. So instead of black, I can switch it to that green. I think that looks a little bit better. Definitely isn't as harsh as it looked like before. Yeah. So kind of soften it up a little bit. Very good. So if this is something that looks good and you're ready to save it out, just, obviously save it out as a smallest file PDF, save it to the desktop. I would save it as all. You don't have to worry about spreads, just all is good. Export, okay. And let me share my desktop. You can take a look at the PDF before you actually submit the whole thing. Add in your, get rid of all my stuff here. So here's the PDF. And you'll have your design brief to add in here, as well as your original photographs that you used in your project. Get rid of these here real quick. So this would be the front of the postcard and the back. So before I see these two pages before this, I should see your creative brief in the same PDF and then the original picture. So I would use this picture and the picture I used on the back, or whatever I did to them, or actually show the original before I actually manipulated them. Yeah, pretty cool. If you are not doing the project that I'm doing for this demo, you're probably only going to have to worry about one page, not 2 pages. Because I think this is the only one that has 2 pages front and back. Yeah. So just a few things here. For week 4, use your photography skills. Yep, if you only have a banner or a poster, or the other options are just one-sided. Think about framing, angles, and lighting, composition, color lines that we talked about, and you guys kind of experimented with, how you can put that into play with your pictures. Make sure you're shooting as close to what your creative brief described as possible. Shoot a lot of images. I told you about that. Kind of weed out the ones that you don't like. It's always good to shoot more than not enough. Assemble all props and models you need far ahead of time and be ready when it comes time to shoot. Be professional about it. The advertisement is as important as the image for this project. So take good, you're not just going to slap the image in there and then call it a day. Obviously you saw how much time it took me to put into the postcard and the layout itself. So think about, all of the design aspects of that and the elements and the principles of design when you're doing that. Remember your advertising courses. Use a persuasive strategy, a technique, call to action, emotions. I could have added a phone number in there, web address as well. I didn't add that in there, but maybe the headline is what is the call to action, or pulling you in somehow with the visual. Feature the brand, the logo prominently. Like I said, for the postcard, you don't have to have it huge, but it has to be in there. Remember your color psychology. That's not spelled right. Anatomy of an ad. So the headline, the visual element, the logo, and the message are the key things that you need to have in there. Okay, so that's pretty much what I have for you guys today. I want to open this up for you guys If you don't have any questions, if you guys want to show anything, I'm going to leave this. Oh, let me keep sharing my PowerPoint. If you have anything that you want to talk about, now's the time to do it. Yep. Okay, Marla, let me stop sharing and I'm going to unmute you as well. So you can turn your mic on if you want. Go ahead and share your screen if you're ready. All right, we can see your screen. Do you have your mic on?
I do now.
Hey, Marla.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I did a couple different postcard versions. Okay. This was an April showers,
Okay, good.
and this would be the back, which would brings May flowers.
Very good.
This is another one. I really kind of like this. I found the chili pepper plants, which I thought was perfect for New Mexico. Desert colors are blooming.
Okay, very cool.
And I've got to fix this. I know I've got to fix this because it's pixelated. And this picture, I'm going to have to take it in and figure out what's going on with it because it shouldn't be so fuzzy.
Well, it almost seems like it's maybe it's trying to link to some place that you maybe moved the image. Make sure they're linked because it will do that if it's not linked up.
That might be the problem then.
It might be missing and that's how it's viewing.
Okay. And then here was another one, Bring Home Spring. And then this is the back of it.
Oh, I think I like the last one the best, actually.
Okay.
I think that's the other ones, the middle one, the second one is a little bit more fall-like feeling. Colors are very dark and heavy, and I get it's not spring to me. I don't know why. It's just more of a fall look.
Right.
But the last one, I think I like the images. Did you take those images?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Yeah, I like the variation of that overall image there. And I like how bright and light it is.
Yeah, that's
go up there. Yeah, if you can somehow get that, I would pull the headline down a little bit on that last one.
Okay.
And get that logo in so you don't have that white box.
Okay.
And then I would just center that logo, make it smaller, kind of, condense a little bit more, unify the mark with the name a little bit better. Because right now it's almost like two separate elements.
Right.
And then the back side of that one, you have all of these different sections of copy, but they're not quite aligned in a way that makes sense for the composition. So get your logo where it needs to be. And I think just making it look like one logo would be best. And then align your store hours with that logo. So how it's more shifted to the left and it's really close to the logo. Yeah, I would pull that down a little bit. And you could even put those store hours on the left side with maybe a little white transparent box, at the center on the middle of the left side image. I would probably go maybe down below a little bit more.
More like here?
Yeah, you can do something over top of that. Even with the logo and your offer, you could do something, with, white opaque boxes or something like that.
Okay.
As far as your customer name, I would just add maybe 3 simple lines instead of actually having all that information.
Oh, okay.
So keep it very simple and just have 3 thin black lines to where if somebody wanted to add in the address, that's obviously where it would be.
Okay.
And that'll just make your design look more cleaner.
Okay, so maybe have city, state, and zip all in one.
No, I would just take off all the words. You don't really need any of that.
Okay.
I would just have a placeholder lines for that. So I would do do you ever see a postcard with just 3 lines that have white space in the middle? Now let me show you kind of what I mean. I'm going to steal the
Okay.
show for a second here.
That's okay.
What I was talking about was just having like 3 little lines here. So it would be, I would do like really thin lines and just have it like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that just is nice. It's cleaner. You get the idea that that's where the address would go. Just the same with Indicia. And it's just cleaner looking.
Okay.
Okay, you can share again if you want. Yeah, I like that. I like that last variation. I think the front image of that last variation works really well. I think it's beautiful, and you captured a nice looking image there.
Okay. Yeah, I had fun at the Home Depot. It was mainly trying to keep people out of the shot. You know, get an arm occasionally or a hat or something.
Right? And then you're like, okay, now I have to set this up and not look weird doing it too.
Exactly. Security kept coming around.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, you know, people are kind of weird with pictures. I know my one friend said he was taking a picture of his kids in the mall the other day and he got yelled at, and he said they're not supposed to take pictures of people in the mall. So, you know, you just never know.
Yeah.
Very good. Do you have any other things that you want to show, or are you good?
No, that was it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing your stuff. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that really helps other people too, inspires the students and other people in this class to know kind of what to do and what, you know, just different suggestions. It helps them as well. So very, very good. All right, Lily, do you have anything that you want to show? Okay, let me stop sharing here and unmute you, and you can go ahead and share.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Hi, Lily. Oh.
See the little nose on the puppy? It's heart-shaped.
Oh. So cute. That is so cute. Can you zoom out just a little bit? Go to like 120% if you can. Just want to see the whole, there you go. Very cute. You know what I would do? I would actually flop that so that the picture's on the left and the adoption part's on the right, just because his head's pointed the opposite direction of the information. So if he's kind of pointed towards the information, the eye kind of goes from left to right.
Yeah.
So just maybe flip-flop that. Yeah, towards the info. Very, very good. I like the overall style of this. The colors are working. I think the only thing that I would probably maybe look into is changing that typeface for the headline to maybe something similar into their logo. Sorry, I have a call coming in. So the adoption typeface that you chose is kind of out of place with all the rest of the elements. And I say that because the typeface in the logo and the typeface used for the other type is more updated, whereas the scripted brings in a totally different vibe to it.
Well, I was trying to bring in like adoption papers and, you know, how they look official.
Oh, okay. I get it.
But yeah, I could do that.
I get it. Okay.
Change the font.
Okay. See, now I understand where you're coming from right there. Let me think about this. Yeah, maybe just a script might be something that would just update it a little bit more, but you still have that signature look to it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Where it doesn't look as it kind of dates it a little bit. And I understand your reasoning behind that now that I look at that. But I want it to look like it's not dated too.
Right.
You know? I would also make you need a little bit more pause in between your type and your logo. What I mean by that is a visual pause. See how there's no real space that's given in between. I mean, there's space there, but it kind of flows together.
Mm-hmm.
So having a little bit more space from when the body copy ends, where that home, forever home, which I like that, how you did that. So maybe gain a little bit more. So I would do at least a 1/2 inch in between that and the logo. If you have to make the logo a little smaller and kind of adjust things a little bit to do so, kind of shift things around a little bit, that will just help everything kind of flow a little bit, be easier to read.
I originally had the logo a little bit smaller, so there was more space.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, what if I make it like a seal on a court,
Right. And you can even pull that logo into that banner you have going vertically down below, maybe put it in the middle of it. And that'll free you up with a little bit more space on the left side. That might actually be really nice.
So put the logo where?
See where that vertical green band with the paws are?
Mm-hmm.
Have that centered right in the middle.
Oh, like right here. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That might be really nice. And then you can make it a little bit bigger, depending. And then you'll gain more space, so you can pull that headline down a little bit, and then the copy from below is getting a little bit close to the bottom, so you can pull that up a little bit, if that makes sense. So you'll have a little bit more room.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. You might even want to put, a web address once that kind of gets even out. You might want to put like a call out web address in there. You don't have to put the address or phone number. It could just be as simple as, having the abbreviations of the logo .org or something like that.
Okay.
But that looks great. I think that the photo is adorable. Definitely would pull you in.
That little nose just
I know. It's so
got
cute.
me.
And it's probably not that small anymore, right?
Actually, this was just taken yesterday.
Oh, okay. So that's pretty.
This photo is like 3 times bigger than what it actually is.
Aww.
He fits in my hand. Just
Aww.
he's barely overlapping.
He's
pretty small still.
Very, very cute. Yeah, I think that would be great. Just kind of those suggestions, flop that picture around so you have the information on the right and the pictures on the left.
Okay.
Try that logo in the middle of that vertical color bar, and then adjust your type.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Is it a he or a she, this one?
This one is a boy, but I do have another girl that looks just like this one. She's the only girl.
Oh, that's right, because you have 3 boys and a girl, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your stuff. I think it looks great. Just a couple of tweaks, and you're on your way too.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great job. Thanks for sharing. Do you guys have any other questions, or you guys good to go? Kind of wrap things up here. All right, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow at the same time. And if you want to show any more progression of your work, bring it all in. Take a look. And we'll kind of wrap it up for this week. Can't believe it. You're welcome. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow, hopefully. All right. Goodbye, guys.
Bye.